Welcome to Real Estate Radio Live, an informative and engaging podcast discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, Joe Caccera, provides you with insight and guidance on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate. He also offers real estate tax management strategies, new construction advice, home improvement tips, and much, much more. And now, to guide you around the world of real estate, here's your host and Real Estate Radio Live team leader, Joe Caccera.
Welcome in. This is Joe Caccera with Real Estate Radio Live, the podcast series as the week continues. And we will continue to bring you more education and information every single day. Keep downloading those podcasts. For more information, go to reradiolive.com or go to iTunes. It continues to grow. Our goal is really to help educate and inform not only the entire Bay Area, but now countrywide, international, and much, much more. If you need to reach us for any reason, or also any topics that you may have. Sometimes we get some really good feedback from listeners, and they'll bring up some topics or have some good questions for us. Go to reradiolive.com. If you need any help on the financing side with purchase financing, refinance, anything of that nature, I could help you with that. You could reach me at 408-838-9060. Topic today is going to be some of the best places to live in the United States. The most recent list here, you're probably seeing it online. If you don't, you go check it out a little bit. In San Jose and San Francisco make the list of some of the top places to live in the United States. Some might be saying, well, boy, that's might be great to live there, but the prices and some of these other things, the traffic, maybe some of the potential negative things, but I'm going to talk about how they made the list, some of the things that they look at, some of the criteria they look at, and really just give an overview of how lucky that we are. If you're listening to this podcast and you live in the San Jose area or Santa Clara Valley, or just the greater Bay Area in general, how fortunate we are in some of the things. It's an incredible job market, most of you know, and certainly if you're in high tech or if you're in sciences or something that has an ability and opportunity to pay a good income or a good wage, that certainly helps. I think it's always the frustrating and the challenging side of these strong economies like we have in the Bay Area is the service industry and some of the other ones that we don't think about, and that's fire, police, a lot of the medical, just the restaurants, in and out of the basic jobs that take place for the infrastructure of the city requires people to do these jobs and competent people to do these jobs. But the challenge is, how do you do that at wages and rates that people get paid in some of these jobs and positions that we need, and we need a lot. So one of the big things is really housing, and I think the city is working, the different communities are working together with different county agencies to try to figure out how they could come up with more affordable housing, both on the rent side and the purchase side. And that's certainly, to me, that's the downside of the San Jose, San Francisco area when someone says they make the top 20 places to live in the United States. So some of the criteria that they use overall, the kind of the scorecard is desirability, value, market, job market, quality of life, and then net migration, which is kind of interesting. Sounds like some animals coming to migrate into the but the obvious things, and again, I'll mention these things and give a review because not everybody listening to this podcast is in the Bay Area, and we realize that. We have to really remember that. So when you're in the Bay Area, you're surrounded by beautiful foothills. You are an hour, you're really less. You're 35 to 40 minutes away from the Santa Cruz area where the beaches are. You are a little over an hour away from arguably some of the most beautiful landscape in the world, and that's down in Monterey and Pebble Beach. A lot of the historic landmarks down there in the Pebble Beach area. And then, of course, north of us, you have San Francisco, which is a well-known city and a worldwide city. Just north of San Francisco, you have Napa Valley, which a lot of people are familiar with, that Sonoma County and Napa area, which is well known for their grapes and their wines and a lot of beautiful restaurants and places. That is some beautiful area there. And if you stretch out a little further, you have 4 to 5 hours away, you have Lake Tahoe, which is one of the most beautiful places, lake mountain region areas, certainly in the United States. And then, of course, Yosemite. We can't forget about that. That's just a couple hours outside of the Bay Area. Yosemite is an incredible, beautiful, breathtaking mountain range, rivers, streams, and just incredible place to visit if you haven't been there before. And, of course, you have 300-plus sunny days a year. And we haven't seen much of that lately, although that statistic's going to change in 2017 if we keep this rain up. We've had a lot of rain, which we need for sure. So, again, some of the obvious reasons the Bay Area, San Jose and San Francisco, are one of the most desirable places to live is it's at the job market. To me, well, I would say there's really two things that stand out and really are the driving force here in the Bay Area. The strong, extremely strong job market. The business environment is really, really robust. And the second thing is just the climate and the ability to do all these things in and around our area. And some of the comments you hear in and around some of the sports cities, and this has become a good sports community too. We have the San Francisco 49ers that are right here in Santa Clara. Of course, you have the Golden State Warriors that are moving to San Francisco, but they're nearby. The San Francisco Giants. We have the Sharks, and a great group of sports around the Bay Area as well. But the difference in this area versus some of the rabid areas in terms of fans and supporting sport teams, a lot of people kind of laugh at our group out here because they say, why don't you see those passionate kind of raging fans that you see a lot of times in the Midwest and the East Coast? And the reason why, I believe, is that there's too many other things to do. If you're stuck in your house, 5 months a year because it's too hot or too cold, and you finally get a chance to get out, you got to be a little bit crazy, I think, right? Maybe crazy is not the right word, but a little bit frustrated. We're fortunate with all the sunshine, good weather. There's things to do. You could golf, you could bike, you could hike, you could ski, you could do all these different things, go to the ocean. And I do think that is the unique part about this area, that for those that are listening to the podcast that are not from this area, if you haven't been here, come and visit, and there's a lot of wonderful things to see. But those are some of the strong factors that drive that rating, that San Jose and San Francisco being in the top 20. Diversity is another one, certainly for sure. You see a lot of diversity in this area, and it's because it is adaptive. And anytime you have a really strong job market like we do here in the Bay Area, you're going to get more diversity. You're going to get people coming from different countries, different cultures that really want to take part in the benefit of thriving in an area like this. I mean, you could come here and start your own business. You could do that anywhere, of course, but you could start a business in terms of technology and a lot of different things that are more business and conducive here in the Bay Area, which is certainly a big deal. The downside, of course, is, we'll talk about that a little bit. I mean, there's all the good things. The downside is traffic. The downside, probably the biggest downside, is the cost of living, where the average home in, I think, these 7 or 8 counties around us, the average home is probably $1.1 million. I think that's the average sales price. The average purchase price could be a little bit different. Some of the counties range a little bit different, but so that is the downside, is the cost of living, the price of a home. And when you think about that, I mean, some of us are a little bit jaded in this area because we deal with it a lot of times. But think about this, is that if you buy an average home for $1 million and you put 20% down, $200,000, which is a lot of money to begin with. Some people don't have that for their life savings. then you're financing $800,000. It's a lot of money. $800,000 is a lot of money to afford and to qualify for an $800,000 loan. My guess is you're going to have to make, somewhere in the neighborhood of $12,000 to $15,000 a month to afford something like that, because you not only have to afford the loan, you have to afford the expensive property taxes that go along with it and the cost of that home. Of course, there's benefits with being able to write 100% of the interest off and 100% of your property tax. There's some benefits there for sure, but that's to me, that is the big downside, is the cost of living. There's some others that we'll talk about briefly too when we come back after a quick break. But today we're talking about the San Jose, San Francisco area making the list of the top 20 most desirable places to live. And so we're going through kind of the reasons why. We touched on the positive reasons and just started to touch on some of the downsides to living in a place like this. One is the cost of living. Again, the second one is traffic. Traffic for sure. I mean, if you are anywhere in the middle of so-called rush hour, whether it be in the morning or in the late afternoon, especially if you're by yourself and you're not driving with someone else, it could take you 45 minutes to an hour to get 15 to 20 miles. And some of you listening to this in L.A., you're thinking, that's a piece of cake. We're used to that. We do that every day. Matter of fact, it takes us an hour and a half to get 15 to 20 miles. So you might be thinking that's not a problem. Or if you're in Japan or Tokyo, you might be thinking that is not a problem. But it's a condensed area of the Bay Area, and it's all in the valley, and certainly a lot of good stuff. And so we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the San Jose, San Francisco area and what it has to offer and some of the downsides as well.
For more information on today's program, visit reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com.
Hi, this is Joe Kuchera of Real Estate Radio Live. Thanks for tuning into our podcast. We are your go-to resource for all aspects of real estate, including buying, selling, refinancing, building, and legal and tax advice, and much more. You can subscribe to Real Estate Radio Live podcast on iTunes and Stitcher to listen to an engaging discussion about anything and everything real estate. So make sure you get our app, RE Radio Live, in the iTunes store to follow the show.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's topic or guests, just visit reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com. Again, your host for today's edition of Real Estate Radio Live, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome back in. It's Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live, the podcast series, as we continue through the week. Today I am talking about San Jose and San Francisco, making a list of the 20 best places to live in the United States. Some of you might be getting sick and tired of all these different top 10s and top 20s and most desirable places to live and invest, but it's good information to try to understand it better, and not only for us to live here, but again, this podcast goes out to people all over the United States and internationally as well. So we try to keep in mind our listenership that are listening to these podcasts that not necessarily familiar with the Bay Area. So we talked about, I covered the positive aspects of being in a location like this that's incredible weather, a great business environment, great place to get jobs, great place for activities. We talked about the beach, skiing, golfing, hiking, outdoors, lakes that are near, beaches that are near, snow that's not too far away, all kinds of great places. So, and things to do. Let's talk a little bit about the negative. The downside is the cost of living. I talked a little bit about that right before we took our first quick break here. And so the cost of living, extremely expensive. I'll do it real quick again. If you talk about an average home of $1 million, if you're putting 20% down, $200,000, which is a fair amount of money. and then you finance $800,000, which is a large mortgage. And in order to do that, depending on your other liabilities, you probably have to make an average of $12 to $15,000 a month in your gross income to be able to afford a loan at $800,000 plus property tax and who knows what other expenses you might have. So some of the things that are changing in San Jose I want to talk about is the downtown area. I think a couple of weeks ago I did a little bit of show on the downtown area and how it really is finally taking shape and going to be coming of its own soon. Downtown San Jose has really been kind of the stepchild to the surrounding areas. The surrounding areas, Cupertino, Los Gatos, Los Altos, Mountain View, Sunnyvale, a lot of those areas where the high-tech companies kind of, planted their feet, put a stake in the ground. That's where a lot of the high-tech companies started, was down in the area of Sunnyvale, Mountain View, Cupertino. There's no more room, though, and that is the reason why downtown San Jose is becoming more desirable. What's going to happen is high-tech's going to be moving down there, and then you're going to get more people that are going to be looking for housing down there. So rent and purchases, there's a lot of high-rise activity going on in downtown San Jose. And I had mentioned this before, too, and this is not a show on investment, but investing in property, but I mentioned this several weeks ago. I still think it's a great opportunity to invest. If someone said, where is one of the best places to invest in the area right this moment, Joe, I'd say downtown San Jose. And you always have to be careful of what you invest and what you buy and how much you spend. But it is one of the best opportunities, I still think, right now. It's going to get more and more expensive as it develops. One of the best things that smart investors do is they look at areas that are up and coming, and they try to picture an area, what it's going to look like 1, 2, 3, 5 years from now, not necessarily right now. And so that, to me, would be downtown San Jose if a person is so inclined to invest in property and they like the idea of owning something here. The other opportunities are for investments is multi-unit properties, duplex, triplex, multi-unit apartment complexes. All these different things are wonderful investments if you can get them in at the right price. As the city starts improving in downtown San Jose and you get more improvement, more upgrades, more redevelopment, what's going to happen is those rents are going to go up. So as landlords, if you have an investment, it's highly likely that you're going to get an increase in rents too. So wanted to make sure I covered that as we talk about San Jose. San Francisco is a entirely different conversation. Let's move to San Francisco for a moment. Let's chat a little bit about San Francisco. It is already saturated. It is already super, super expensive. I wouldn't consider nearly any area in San Francisco, maybe Hunters Point that's starting to be redeveloped, which is a pretty tough area. Maybe some outside areas just out of San Francisco as you're going, you're coming into San Francisco might be, but overall, San Francisco is already super expensive, ridiculously crowded. Probably one of the most challenging parts about San Francisco is the parking and getting around. Parking is not good at all. There's a lot of problems with that. There's also a lot of problems with homeless, which, in a tourist city, maybe sometimes most people are just used to that, but that also, these poor people, they keep growing in terms of the amount that are occupying San Francisco. I know it's a problem, and they're trying to do what they can, but it's certainly an issue and one that has to be dealt with. So San Francisco, wonderful place to visit. Great city, great restaurants. The Giants are up there. There's a lot of the Warriors will be in San Francisco. They're moving from Oakland to San Francisco, I believe, in 2018, 2019. And that will be a big boost for San Francisco. For most of you, AT&T Park really put that area of San Francisco on the map. That was built, and I think in the year 2000, so 16 years ago. Hard to believe it's been that long. They built AT&T Park, and it's a gem. It's one of the most beautiful parks that you'll see. What happened around that redevelopment area is that it homes, restaurants, shops. It's amazing what happened to that area when they built that park. And if you drive in there, if you've driven in there for years, you know what's taken place, and that is a lot of redevelopment, and that's what's taking place in San Francisco. Now, if you're familiar with the spot that they're going to be building the Chase Center, which is for the Golden State Warriors, that's also going to create more business, more opportunity, more restaurants, and a lot more revenue for the city in many different ways, for sure. So, what we have, San Jose, San Francisco, for those that aren't used to it, aren't familiar or visited, maybe not, beautiful, beautiful places to live, great weather, great activities, outdoor activities, a lot of stuff to do. On the flip side, very, very expensive. Traffic is a hassle. And also trying to accommodate, the tough balance is trying to accommodate people in the service industry to try to make a decent wage to live and to support themselves is really, really difficult here. And that was what I'd say the downside. I know most people want to listen to all the wonderful reasons why we live in these areas, where people, come to these areas, or why it's the most desirable place. But I think in fairness, we also have to share with the listening audience the downside to some of the activities in our area as well. So just a couple minutes left. One of the things I wanted to bring up, a little bit obviously unrelated, as most of you know, and I think I'll do more on this tomorrow, Wells Fargo is still really suffering and having a hard time. After all the fraudulent accounts they had opened up, their employees had opened up. If you've been following the podcast, I've done a couple of stories. It's been a while. I think we'll do an updated story tomorrow. The reason why is I saw some news today where I think it was Seattle. They were trying to completely get rid of Wells Fargo. They're trying to run them out of town as a business. So I want to find out a little bit more about that and come back and report on that and find out exactly what's going on. There was millions of people that were affected by setting up fraudulent accounts. They were doing that inside, for those that may not be aware. Wells Fargo was fined a large amount of money by the CFPB, and the president was fired. There's a lot of things that took place because of that. And it was a really, really expensive mistake on the part of Wells Fargo. And it sounds like they're still railing from it. I think the last announcement a month ago was that they were going to close several hundred locations around the United States. And now I'm hearing that they're continued to be affected in certain locations. And also, it's affecting their mortgage business, is my understanding, too. So I'm going to get some more detail on that. And, it looks like Seattle is going to cut ties with Wells Fargo over the pipeline access, huh? Is that what it is? Okay. So we'll get some more details for you on that. I know that's a lively topic because in this day and age, people are really, really tired of the mega corporations ripping people off or misleading them or losing money because of some of the mistakes they make, and then the taxpayers paying for it, while the senior executives of these companies jump out with these golden parachutes and they leave with, hundreds of millions of dollars when they were responsible for some of the things that took place in these happenings. So we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about that tomorrow. Lastly, I'll say, as the video's information goes out, this is purchase, this is buying season. If those are out there ready to buy, you're going to see a lot more inventory. I encourage you to make sure that you work with someone that you trust, someone like me or someone that you trust that you've worked with. Make sure your financing's in place and make sure you're ready to be active for that purchase, because I do believe for those that are waiting, there's going to be more homes on the market, and I hope that some of those people that have been patient and frustrated looking for homes, they'll be able to find some soon. All right, that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Take care.
You've been listening to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's program, visit reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com. Subscribe to our podcast. Discover more at reradiolive.com.